So let's say revolutionizing renovation is really important to Signify as it is to humanity at large, because it will bring the mitigation that is very much needed. It will accelerate energy efficiency, because there we see that a lot of new technologies are available, but it's not enough to increase the speed of carbon reduction, because it's the speed of renovation of buildings and infrastructure that will determine how fast it goes. So I'll give one example. So we are the global leader in lighting. 85% of our business is LED lighting. But still, if you look at the US, 50% of all the light points, as well as in Europe, are all technologies, so tubes and bulbs. And let's say the progress is fairly slow because renovation rates are so slow. So if we increase the speed, then actually the US could save $28 billion per year, but also reduce emissions by 70 million tons. And then, as we are in New York State, it would also free up electricity that can charge 3 million electric vehicles, or power 2.6 million heat pumps. So renovation revolution is important because it's really big, and we need to unlock that potential for the world and for the US. Yes, so collaboration is really important in accelerating renovation. Nobody can do this alone. So we can provide the lighting, but you need finance, you need policies. You also need partners. Because interesting, if you dig a little deeper, when we speak to companies that have factories and warehouses, it's easy to take the decision because quite often they own their real estate. But most large companies in the world, they lease their office space. So that is already an example where you need to pull in real estate as part of the solution. But then also policies really matter because procurement is quite often triggered at lowest initial cost. So we then need to work with policymakers and see, can we make procurement also give like a life cycle perspective? I call it circular procurement. And together with banks, we can offer lighting as a service, as many other things could be leased. Same for lighting. And so it's really together that we can craft, let's say, the approaches, be successful, but also increase the speed. So my request to policymakers would be, give the example, walk the talk. As a company, we've been carbon neutral since 2020, so we've shown actually how this can be done. And it's important also for the private sector, but also for learning, that public buildings are at least in the, let's say, in the front group for renovation, because quite often you find that once you start working, there are all kinds of hurdles, and not only in procurement, but also in finding labor. Also, when you start working on this, you find the finer detail that needs to be adjusted in policies, but also it starts giving a, let's say, a scope of the size of the challenge. I sometimes imagine, okay, if we all say yes, we'll double the speed of renovation to 3% per year, do we have the right people? Do we have sufficient people in the education system on the different STEM levels? So I think so that's one important message to policymakers. Set the ambition level, the year that your buildings will be zero, and also get on with it. So then indeed, so time flies. We've been working with the Climate Group since 2006, 2007. We are a member since 2009. So not the entire 20 years next year, but a good time. So what I really like about the Climate Group is then the straightforward advocacy, but also turning that into actionable programs on renewable energy, on electric vehicles, on LED lighting, and now actually this week had a soft launch, later this year the formal launch of Renovation Revolution. So bringing the stakeholders together, turning advocacy, turning needs into action based on also sharing with all stakeholders, pulling in public sector, private sector, what needs to be done by when and why, but then let's roll up our sleeves and get it done.